I'm going to give you a simultaneous speech, the subject of which is whether the United Kingdom should stay in the European Union or not. It presents the viewpoint of a British Conservative, although not necessarily a Eurosceptic, and presents the arguments on both sides, really, whether the UK should stay in the EU. The only proper names which are used are well known. Ladies and gentlemen, the debate in the United Kingdom about whether the country should stay in the EU or leave has become so heated that I really believe that both sides are in danger of losing sight of what it is that they're actually arguing about. It's become all about the fight, with the actual rights and wrongs of it all completely lost in the fray. In actual fact, it reminds me of the feud in the very early Christian church between those on the one hand who believed that Christ was of the same substance as the Father, and those on the other who said he was of a similar but not identical substance. It's a fascinating debate, no doubt about that, but one in which the real matter at stake quickly lost importance. Now, what I'm about to say is quite possibly rather controversial, but I personally feel that the issue of EU membership is no longer crucial to the destiny of the United Kingdom. We, thank goodness, aren't members of the Euro, and how right we were to try to strangle that crazy scheme at birth. And given the amount of time and energy that EU leaders are currently having to devote to trying to deal with the single currency and its problems, we can't possibly claim to be at the heart of Europe. So in this context, I believe firmly that Prime Minister David Cameron is absolutely right to try to go for a new, more mature relationship with our friends and partners in the European Union. What he's trying to do is to attempt to boil it all down to free trade and political cooperation. And once he's achieved that, he'll then put it to the vote. This will make David Cameron the only leader of a major political party to ask the British public for their say, for their opinion on Europe since 1975. Let me make it perfectly clear that he has my full support on this. I personally would go even further. I personally favour bringing in legislation right now to make sure that the referendum will indeed go ahead. The referendum will be a good thing for absolutely everyone, because it will make us focus not on the feud, not on the fight. Rather, we'll have to focus on what is actually right for our country. We're all going to have to take a deep breath, calm down a little bit, step back and ask, do I want in or out? And the next question, why do I want that? Ladies and gentlemen, I think that now is a very good time to have a preliminary look at some of the arguments on both sides. And let me start then with my initial thoughts on why any rational UK citizen might want to consider staying in the European Union. First of all, there's foreign direct investment. There may be a risk, although it's not proven, that international companies and funds could be put off from investing in the UK, scared off by the idea that the UK has cut itself off from a giant EU market. Reason number one for us to consider staying in the EU. The second reason involves global influence. I think it's fair to say that the EU is arguably better placed to negotiate trade deals with the US or with China than the UK alone would be. Although this is another proposition which of course is untested. And let's be frank, the idea of an EU common foreign policy remains a little bit of a joke at this stage. Where was the EU on Iraq? On Libya? And what, for that matter, is the EU position on the Falklands. The third reason we should consider remaining in the EU is global perception of the United Kingdom. It's often said, and I think rightly so, that our strategic significance for the Americans or for the Chinese depends entirely on our membership of the European Union, though this is yet another untested hypothesis. More generally, the danger is that leaving the EU may well be interpreted as being a very narrow, xenophobic, backward-looking thing to do, something to be avoided. Now, there are certainly plenty of other reasons for staying in, but so as to respect my time limit, I'd like to move to the other side and consider for a moment the advantages of getting out. First and foremost, we save money. We would no longer have to cough up for the EU budget, and we could spend those billions at home in the UK and spend them as we see fit. The second reason for getting out: we get our sovereignty back, especially when it comes to our borders. We'd no longer be in the mad position we're currently in of having to extend our entire welfare system to anyone from Bulgaria or Romania who happens to come along, whilst keeping out lucrative Chinese tourists just to achieve immigration caps set by Brussels. The third reason to think about perhaps getting out of the EU is that we get to make our own laws again if we do that. We would no longer have to accept the vast corpus of EU legislation, much of which is far too detailed and interfering, let's face it, and it's added so significantly to the costs borne by British businesses. The fourth reason, and the final reason I'm going to give you today, we can no longer blame Brussels. And here we have it, perhaps the most important point in this whole debate. If we left the EU, we'd put an end to this sterile debate. We would be forced to recognise that most of our problems are not caused by Brussels at all. Rather, they're caused by things which are of our own making. For example, the dreadful short-termism which prevails in Britain today, inadequate management, sloth and laziness, low skills, a culture of easy gratification. People in the UK today seem to expect everything to come to them easily, to fall into their laps, and of course underinvestment in people and in infrastructure. Why is it that we're still so much less productive now than the Germans? This question is now more than a century old, and the answer has absolutely nothing to do with the EU. Whether we're in or out of the EU, we must have a clear vision of how we are to be competitive in this global economy in which we live. And in the meantime, we need a much more informed debate about the pluses and the minuses of EU membership. Ladies and gentlemen, renegotiation of the UK's membership of the EU can only work if we clearly understand right from the very outset what it is that we want to achieve. And what do we want to achieve? A pared-down relationship based on free trade and cooperation. And let's be clear that our partners will only take us seriously if they think that we will actually go ahead and invoke Article 50 of the treaty and pull out if we fail to get what we want. Ladies and gentlemen, if we are going to have any chance of success in the negotiations, we need to show that the UK is willing to walk away. Thank you very much.